What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Just out here in the old shop today, like always, doing all the wandering around, and I thought to myself, well, you know, something at a time I get involved in my own stuff and forget that I got other people's things to work on. Sorta, kinda. Well, this is one of them times I thought, well, let's get some other stuff done. This is not an LS. For those of you with a keen eye, you might notice this is a Gen 1 small block Chevrolet. Matter of fact, this is a 400. A good friend of mine, Brett, owns. He's putting it in a 50-ish Chevy pickup. He was looking at all sorts of different options. He even bought a 434 stroker crank for it at one point. Decided to back down a little bit. Didn't want to go that crazy. He wants to have a fun driver. It's got some tire burning top power. So he's got a cam in it. Flat, or not flat top. Maybe it is flat top. I don't remember. It's got aftermarket pistons. They're not forged or nothing, but it'll be a great runner. Stock strokes. I think it's a 30 overbore. You know, just your standard old 406. Nothing too exciting on that side of things. But we got some good parts on it. You know, fancy guy oil pan. We got some roller rockers. Got a couple other things. Billet, billet HEI. A bunch of parts in the box. He's got went ahead and spent the extra money on good ARP fasteners, basically top to bottom. And have a billet timing cover, you know, stuff like that. He's even got he likes billet. He likes a lot of that shiny stuff. So a couple things we had to do with it. I basically assembled most of this engine, well, at least everything but the short block so far. Degreed the cam, made sure it was right, and it's good to go. Head gaskets, you know, all that stuff. I did stick the oil pan on, but at the time I got a little bit ahead of myself, and there's a oil pump drive shaft that needs to be installed, which is in the box of goodies, but no big deal. We'll spin it over, pop the oil pan back off. Probably gonna have to clean it up and reseal it. Not the end of the world, but we'll do that real quick, and then we can work on the top end stuff. We'll do a quick once over, do a preload of the lifters on this thing, rocker arms. It does have hydraulic flat tappet cam in it. Nothing too exciting, so we'll just kind of preload them, give them you know, 5/8, 3/4 of a turn of preload on them, just like any other small block Chevrolet. And yeah, we'll get it all put together tonight, hopefully, get the intake and all that stuff on it, and it'll be basically ready for you know, truck install. Even though the truck is a long ways from it, it'll be ready. So anyways, probably go on to some time-lapse stuff, maybe try and do a little bit of that tonight, but otherwise, hang out, check her out. All right, we're back. Timeline was semi-successful. This engine's set a little bit high on the stand, so it is extremely top heavy. As you can tell by the 4.5, 5 foot long tube I had to use to get it around. Having a bum wrist doesn't really help a whole lot. Otherwise, I'm kind of a pansy. Got a little formula drift going on in the background, you know, got a little background noise. You know, everybody's got to have a little bit of that whenever they're doing a little bit of work. Radio, TV, something going on. I think it just helps distract the mind from the madness. Okay, so oil pan's on, it's tight, it's torqued. The old Armstrong torque wrench working out really well tonight. I've done enough of these that I kind of know where I want to be at for torque. Run around it a few times, usually 3 or 4, then just make sure everything's even as it runs around the base of that oil pan. You don't want to have that oil pan leaking right out the gate. That's kind of a bad looking deal. Having said that, most of the time, especially with a cork gasket like we're dealing with on that oil pan, we're going to have to go ahead and retorque that, or at least retighten it after a little bit of runtime. Heat cycling, things like that can cause some bolt stretch and, you know, a gasket swelling, things like that. Anyways, so now we're up to adjusting the valves. Engine's upright, valves are on, or rockers are on, excuse me. We got chromoly push rods, we got cheaper roller rockers, 1:5 ratio, nothing too exciting, but they should be just fine for the application. Like I said, we're looking for burnouts and cruising. We're not talking about 1,000 horsepower. So these will work out beyond good enough. So having said that, being a hydraulic roller, we don't gap these. We don't take a feeler gauge. You know, a solid roller or a solid flat tappet cam, we got to take a feeler gauge, you know, and whatever size, call it 30 thousandths gap between your roller rockers. What you got to end up doing, you got to take that and you got to be able to slip it underneath it. Well, hydraulics, we don't want that. We want a little less deflection. We want this thing, because of the hydraulic cylinder that is built into the lifter, we want to go ahead and preload that. So that way, whenever the engine's building oil pressure, it's kind of working against that spring pressure and preloading the valve, if you will. Science. I wish I had my lab coat. Anyhow, so you can kind of see, if I get in here and I'm touching on this thing was almost completely tight, but I can take and rock that thing quite a bit. And if we get in there, we can hopefully see. I don't know if you can see very well, but that is deflecting and is pushing the piston down inside of that lifter. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to take a 3/16 Allen and a 5/8 wrench. The only tools we need to adjust the valves on this thing. What basically we got to do with these particular setups is we got a poly lock or a locking retainer on these. So this nut and this Allen will go down together, as you can kind of see. But whenever we run this Allen screw in, we're going to be running that screw. Okay, it's a bad example because it's off stroke. Anyways, we're going to run that screw into the top of the stud, and that will jam the screw to the adjuster nut, thus locking it in place. So, having said that, we actually have a specific order that we have to go to do this. Now, 1-843-657-2 is the timing arrangement, unless you have a 4/7 swap. We won't get into that. So on cylinder 1 of top dead center, you have to adjust half the valves. And then cylinder 6, 1-843-6-572, is 180 degrees, or one full rotation, 180 degrees on the cam. You have to adjust the other half. And that arrangement kind of looks a little bit like this. One top dead center, we got to adjust intake valve 1257 and exhaust valve 1348. On top dead center 6, we got to go exhaust valve 2567, intake valve 3468. Now we do that, we can basically preload it, and then if this engine goes in the truck tomorrow, next week, next year, it'll be ready to go. Do a little run time. It's going to have a 20-minute break-in period minimum anyways, because it is a flat tappet hydraulic cam, and basically all that boils down to is we're going to break the cam in and seat the lifters to the cam. They're going to wear in and match each other and create a good fit. So we're going to go ahead and adjust the rockers on this thing. Probably go ahead and put her back in the time lapse and just run through that real quick. Before we do though, we'll show you a trick. To start, we have to have one on top dead center. Now I know we're close because I said it like that before, but we're gonna go ahead and take this rocker arm. Ooh, we'll see if I can set this thing down. And take this rocker number 1. We're gonna be watching it. And we're gonna go ahead and put this extension in there. Or you could use a screwdriver or whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'm actually gonna back up right quick. It's gonna be resting on top of the piston. Now as I push, rotate the engine, that extension's coming out. Maybe this would be a better view. Now that extension's coming out. As it comes out, it's gonna hit the point where it stops coming out. It's actually gonna start going back in. Like so. But we need to adjust it when it's at top dead center. So we're gonna go ahead and go back. Usually just do this a couple times just to double check and make sure. See, we're about at the top dead center. You kind of might have to do some adjusting just to make sure. And we're going back down. So go ahead and crank it back the other way. Right about there. We are at top dead center, cylinder number 1. So I probably should have explained it a little bit before I started, but it doesn't really matter because it's all done now and I don't really care. But what a guy wants to do is you get in there and you feel on your push rod there and you get a good grip on her and you want to rock it up and down and make sure that you get all the play out of your rocker arm. And that is about 0 lash. Give or take, scientifically speaking, that's about good enough. So then what you're gonna have to do is we're going to take that locker, or that, excuse me, the adjuster nut, we're going to whip it around about 5/8 to 3/4 of a turn. Usually about that 11/16 marker is pretty heavy. That's where I like to go with it. Regardless, gonna do that, run that set screw in, lock her down. You can see how deep that sucker gets in there. Maybe you can. Oh, that sucker's deep. And then that's going to lock that valve into place. Now we got all 16 valves set. Top end of this thing is basically done. We can throw the intake manifold on, valve cover gaskets. This thing can go down the road. Yeah, I guess that's it for today. We're gonna go ahead and end it on that because we don't want to run these videos too terribly long. I'll slap that valve cover and intake setup on there because realistically, it's not that interesting to watch. But thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, have a watch party, throw confetti, eat pancakes, whatever you gotta do. Keep coming back. Check me out again here in a day or two. We'll go ahead and see what else we can get up for you. So, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see y'all later.